Hey, welcome back. Glad you could join me. We're going to have a short one today, but it's based on a recent little event that happened that I think was a perfect example of things I've talked about. Now, before I tell you the little story, which won't take too long, I've talked before about in many of my videos, about how as far as safety goes, I believe in preventing accidents. Don't create the scenario that can potentially become an accident. So if you just eliminate that whole scenario altogether, you eliminate the potential of an accident. And even more recently in videos, I've said, instead of trying to fix problems, prevent them. Much, much easier. Again, same thing is don't allow the scenario that can become a problem. And another thing I've said, I think I only said it in one video, maybe two, I don't know, but in case you missed that one, is I said, find the line and don't cross it. In other words, by that I meant, discover what the threshold is of what the horse can handle and don't exceed that. And by that, you'll prevent a lot of problems. And safety issue too, because once a horse exceeds that threshold, it starts to go into survival mode, it starts reacting instead of thinking, and it can potentially get quite dangerous. And you don't want that. So that's something that you're going to completely want to avoid, is don't cross the line. Now, if you take all of those things that I've said, it goes along with this little story, because there was a few horses here, all owned by the same person, and they had blankets on them. Now, I think they should have come off a while back, but that's not the point of this story. They couldn't catch them, and they also had the help of an experienced horseman. They couldn't catch them either. And they were actually in a fairly small pen, too, which made it even more interesting that they couldn't catch them even in a small area. So I was asked to help by the experienced horseman. I think he was actually surprised how easy I made it, but it was very simple. It is, I think that in the beginning they were having problems catching. Now, I wasn't there for that part, so I don't know exactly what transpired, but I have my suspicions that the horses were kind of maybe preoccupied with things. They were doing something that, don't bug me while I'm doing this, get away from me, and that made it difficult to catch them, because when I was asked to catch these horses so they get the blankets off, I knew exactly which ones it was, and it's like, oh yeah, that's no problem, we can do that. And I just walked out there, and the one was exceptionally easy to do. The other one, when I walked up to him, I neglected to even take a halter with me. All I had was a lead rope to throw around their neck. But the one I walked up to him, and he started backing up as I walked towards him, but I just did not exceed his threshold. And the experienced horseman that was present at the time, he said, oh, by the way, one of these kicks, and I go, oh yeah, that's this one, I know, don't worry, I know all about this. And they go, well, he kicks, be careful. And I said, don't worry, I'm not going to give him a reason to kick. And that's one of those things that, I've talked about before, and it's, because he has kicked in the past. And I started thinking about it, and he actually had a couple of reasons to do it. He wasn't being a bad horse. And, it goes back to, I say, I don't like box stalls and I don't like tying. And, because that ups their stress levels, increases the chance of a problem. And what I did when I went out to go catch the horses to take their blankets off is I just didn't exceed their threshold. If I had seen things that were looking like the horse was going to have a meltdown, I would have backed off. But I just approached the horses nice and slow and smooth, and we didn't have a problem. Within a matter of a couple of minutes, we had the blankets off of two of the horses that required it, and the job was done. But we applied the same principle that we always do of not exceeding their threshold, preventing scenarios. Like I say, I was warned, oh, careful, one of them kicks, and I'm like, no, don't worry about it. That's actually not the first time I've had somebody say something like that to me. Oh, that horse kicks. I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to give him a reason to kick. That horse is not going to kick me. And if you don't give them a reason to do it, they're not going to do it. And this goes right back to preventing problems, preventing accidents, not crossing the line. You can look at it any way you want. It's all the same thing. They didn't approach it quite right, and they couldn't even catch the horse. And the one that was the kicker, well, he never even threatened to kick because I never gave him a reason to, because of the way I approached him and treated him the whole time is I never put him in a position where he felt threatened, where he felt like he had to defend himself, where he felt like he needed to kick me. I eliminated the scenario that could have become a problem or an accident or any kind of bad thing you want to look at. So anyhow, just thought I'd share that story quickly today. Two people couldn't get blankets off a horse, two of the horses out there. I had no problem doing it because I applied the same principles that I always do. And I just had to share that one because it was such an excellent example of if you don't approach it right, it is a problem. If you approach it right, there's no problem. So don't cross the line, prevent problems, don't let the accident happen by simply avoiding the entire scenario that can create the accident in the first place. Have a good day and be safe.